am not going to let present me try and figure out how to solve problems that only future me will have the data, skills, and context to solve. I'm just not gonna do that. It feels like a waste of time and a waste of energy when we are gifted this beautiful imagination as humans. Why would we drift off into worst case scenario and catastrophize when instead we could use our imagination to be like, how good could this get? And damn, I trust myself and I trust that a future version of me is gonna figure this out. Let's go, girl, giddy on up, right? What's up? I'm so excited that you're here for today's episode because it will hopefully be really helpful for you if you're struggling with anxiety or you're overthinking a little bit, or you want to know like the next 10 steps of your life, but you're in a situation where you have a lot of question marks and that can feel really overwhelming. But my goal with this episode is for us to talk about something I'm going through in real time that I think you're going to connect with, but also for you to leave feeling like an exhale, like, okay, future me has got this. I'm going to trust in her. And really just like settle into some anchoring beliefs that I feel can be super supportive when you're trying something new or when you're entering a new season, a new juggle, whatever that may be. So we're going to get into that. And, I honestly think this episode is going to be really helpful for you if you're someone who gets caught up in where you want to be, and then you look at the distance between where you are now and where you want to go, and that distance really does feel intimidating to you. Or you recognize there's so many milestones along the way towards the vision that you have or the goal that you want that you don't really know how you're going to handle it. And I want to first just remind you that every single prior version of you has run into things that you didn't really know how you were going to handle it, but you did, right? And I think sometimes, I guess like motherhood has really taught me this a lot. And of course, being an entrepreneur as well for the last 11 years, but motherhood's like, you're like, how am I going to like survive tomorrow? Because I'm so sleep deprived in the early stages, but like you just do. And to be honest, I think like all that I've gone through as a mom in this first 2 years and now being pregnant with number 2 has made me realize like how much more capable I am to handle things, because I really pushed myself to limits in different ways through that journey that now I'm like, wow, I'm even more capable than I thought I was. Like, let's freaking go. So just a reminder to you that you've been through hard things. You can handle hard things again. You've dealt with uncertainty, you can deal with uncertainty again. You've had question marks and not known how you're going to figure it out. And guess what? You'll figure it out again. That being said, I get it. And, I've had this podcast for 7 years. Obviously, we did a little 6-month hiatus there, but I have not been in a season that I'm in right now in a really long time. In fact, I left the corporate world in 2015. My last day at Google was April 10th of 2015. And that was the last time that I've had like any sort of structure because I've been a full-time entrepreneur. And so in this current moment, I'm experiencing a lot of feelings right now that I feel like you'll be able to connect with if you are entering a new season or you're doing something new or you do have a big vision that I want to share with you in real time, because hopefully it will be helpful for you. And, this podcast has also always just been like a come with me, let's figure out life together type of show. But some of the feelings that I know so many of you are going through, I feel like I'm really in it. So, okay, let me give you some context. So at the time that I'm recording this, I'm actually recording this the Monday before it releases. And today, my day looked like the morning was spending time with my son. Right now, it's his nap time. So I record podcast episodes on his nap time for the show. And then as soon as he gets up from his nap, I'm dropping him off at a friend's house, and I am going to Good Neighbor, which is the brokerage that I joined here in Colorado. They specialize in investment properties, short-term rentals, buying primary homes with that investor lens, like all the things that I really love. Like, I'm so excited. It's such a good fit for me. But I'm going into the brokerage this afternoon to do onboarding and start getting set up for my training. And they have an office. Obviously, as a real estate agent, you're an entrepreneur, but working under a brokerage. They have an office, and this is the first time since 2015 that I'm physically walking into an office that, technically I can work at the offices if I want to, right? That I'm going to be working at. Like, I just haven't done this in so long. And at this current stage of my life, I have a 2-year-old, and we're pregnant with a baby due July 7th. So there's a lot of unknowns for the future, and the juggle feels really unique. And it would be so easy for me to get caught up in all that I don't know. One, about the career path, right? Like, I'm on the start line going into becoming a real estate agent. And while I do know a lot about real estate, honestly, I've been an investor for 4 years. I'm super familiar with the short-term rental space. I've spoke on this a lot. I've been on tons of podcasts about this. Like, I actually do feel really confident about the space. It still is new. And I'm on the start line and I'm figuring out all the details. And there's a lot of question marks of what that's going to look like, right? What's my schedule going to look like? I know what my schedule looks like now and what it's looked like in prior versions of Empower Her, having my podcast courses and masterminds and keynote speaking and all the other stuff that I've done. I know what that looks like because I've already experienced it. But this has a lot of question marks. When am I going to be showing my clients houses? What are my hours going to look like? What's the juggle going to look like with wanting to spend a lot of time with my toddler, but also really wanting to pour a lot into my career and knowing that when you start something, it requires a lot more energy at the beginning. Like, those are valid questions, right? And I think you can probably relate to that you might have question marks of things that you just don't know exactly how it's going to pan out. Whether that's in your current career, you're waiting for management to make a big decision, or you're waiting on a promotion, or you're waiting to see how this relationship goes. Are you going to marry this person? Like, there's so many unknowns in life, right? And we really have to be so uncomfortable with uncertainty as humans in general. But I think it's especially important that we catch ourselves in the narrative that we're creating in our head, the story that we're telling ourselves. Because literally, none of the problems that I'm worried about today are current me problems, yet my brain, current me's brain, is trying to handle and solve for future me's problems. I don't know what it's going to look like when I go on a maternity leave. I have no idea when this baby's coming, right? Like, we know a due date is July 7th, but who actually has babies on their due date, right? So it's I don't know when it's coming. I don't know what my client load is going to look like. I don't know what my schedule is going to feel like. And so how could I possibly know that? And I'm sure you can apply that in your own life. Why would I get caught up on a future version of me's things and problems that I literally can't solve now because I don't have enough data? When instead, I could just trust that the distance between where I am now and where I want to go is the path that's required. Therefore, it's going to teach me what I need to learn. The skills, it's going to give me the information. It's going to help me get the reps in. It's going to help me understand what my flow looks like with childcare and what that looks like with my schedule and what clients I'm working with and what I'm most excited about and what ski areas am I selling properties in the most and what does the whole landscape look like? I can't jump to the future and know the answers to all of these questions that I have. I have to just trust that if I start going down the path and have a little bit more of a micro focus, I can figure this out, right? So I go into day 1 and week 1 and we look at how this feels like. Okay. And then it's week 2 and we're juggling it. And my husband and I are having lots of conversations and being transparent. I trust myself, and I want you to trust yourself too, that you are going to figure this out. And whatever resources you need to bring in, you're resourceful enough to figure out what resources you need to bring in to give yourself support. I've talked about this in a bazillion episodes before, but I don't believe that you're gifted a vision if you're not also gifted the resourcefulness to figure out any how along the way. So what are you getting caught up in right now, right? I am not going to let present me try and figure out how to solve problems that only future me will have the data and skills and context to solve. I'm just not going to do that. It feels like a waste of time and a waste of energy when we are gifted this beautiful imagination as humans. Why would we drift off into worst case scenario and catastrophize when instead we could use our imagination to be how good could this get? And damn, I trust myself and I trust that a future version of me is going to figure this out. Let's go, girl, giddy on up, right? That's the vibe that I want. That's the energy that I want. And I think it's really important that we are on our own team and that we're really, really careful of the narrative that we have in our head, right? And it's interesting because I went on a walk yesterday with a new friend and she was talking to me about how her therapist is helping her just be really cautious of what she calls future tripping. And maybe you've heard this term before. It's it's commonly used in psychology and positive psychology for sure. But future tripping is mentally living a future moment you're not prepared for yet and often catastrophizing it, right? How am I going to handle this? I will be fully transparent with you. I had a moment a couple days ago where I said to my husband, like, how am I going to handle this when baby number 2 is born? And like, what's the juggle going to look like when I have all these clients that I'm obsessed with? And I was like, oh my God, Keisha, stop. And like, he didn't even respond to me. Like, I didn't even give him a second to respond because I caught myself mid-sentence and I was like, this is not supportive. This is not helpful. Like, why are you worried about this? Like, take a breath and chill the F out. You're going to handle it. And I'm telling you this because I'm in it with you, right? Like this podcast, I wanted to always like pull back the curtain and instead of being like, hello, I'm Keisha, I have all my ish figured out. Like follow me for my 10 million steps on how to be a great whatever. It's like, BS, I'm figuring this out as I go. And I'm catching myself in real time. And I know if I'm doing that, you probably need a reminder, which is why I wanted to record this podcast episode in case you're doing that too, where you are drifting off into how are you going to handle it? You're future tripping and it's not serving you, or you're overthinking, right? You're trying to problem solve without information or context. Well, shit, that's not going to be helpful, right? Like I was literally doing that where I'm like, okay, so what's our schedule going to be like? Like what, time should we have childcare? Because I want to spend chunks of time with him. I want to make sure I've got this balance. And I'm like, I don't know yet. I am overthinking because I don't have context of what my flow is going to look like as I'm building this real estate business with the clients that I want to work with and how I want to show up for their schedules too. But I trust that I can figure this out. And I hope that you can hear the tone that, if you're watching this on YouTube, which girl, if you haven't subscribed on YouTube, go to Keisha Get Mary on YouTube, hit subscribe. These videos of every single week of the podcast are going to be on there. But then also I'm doing videos of some other cool stuff coming. So you're just going to want to be subscribed. So go subscribe. You can pause the podcast for 5 seconds. Go subscribe. Okay, now come back. Okay, anyway, so truthfully, I just want you to be cautious if you are future tripping, right? If you're mentally living in a future moment that you're not prepared for and you might be catastrophizing it, you can handle it. It's going to be okay. You're not going to die. Buckle up. We're going to figure this out, right? Or if you're overthinking, right? If you're overthinking, you're trying to problem solve and you don't have enough context or information yet, just chill, girl, right? And I'm saying this to you because I'm saying this to me too. Chill, girl. We're going to figure this out. It's all right, girl. You got this, okay? So really, future tripping steals peace from today. And overthinking, you think will protect you, but it actually really paralyzes you, doesn't it? Like, what's the point of hypothetically stressing about a future version of you's problems and then thinking that that will help you when you get to that point and you have to figure out what to do? It doesn't help you. It just robs you of joy now. And this is a little bit of a tangent, but it's always been really important to me to talk about a fertility journey when I have thousands and thousands of women listening into this podcast that you or someone you know might have a fertility journey. But one thing that was so helpful for me that helped me with a lot of anxiety is after our first miscarriage, I would consciously remind myself, even when we got pregnant again, right after our first miscarriage, which ended up resulting in a second miscarriage, I was like, I am gonna let myself get excited. I know that there is a potential for a miscarriage. I know that something could go wrong. I'm very consciously aware. I'm not like living in unicorn butterfly land that I don't know what reality is. I had just experienced a miscarriage. But when I got pregnant with that second baby, I was like, I'm just not going to rob myself of the joy of this current moment. I'm going to be excited because if I get let down, I'm going to be crushed, right? Like if it had resulted in a miscarriage, which the first and second one, it did, I was crushed. It wouldn't have helped me by not letting myself get excited, thinking that that would prepare me for a loss, right? Like it sucked. It really, really sucked. And my heart just like breaks for people that are going through this. But I'm glad I let myself get excited. And I did trust the whole time that I was like, eventually I'm going to get to a point where this is going to work out. And I really believe that to be true. And I'm so grateful to be, at the time that I'm recording this, 15 weeks. So when you listen to this, 16 weeks pregnant. And I'm so grateful and I'm so excited. I'm not going to rob myself of joy right now of anything that could potentially happen, I'm going to savor this joy, and I'm going to trust that if anything does happen in the future, which God forbid, I really hope it doesn't, for you, for me, for whatever your journey is, we will handle it then. Let's not rob ourselves of joy now, you know? So I do want to get into like a second of like why I think we actually do this future tripping and overthinking. And, you know, it's important just to recognize that like your brain doesn't like uncertainty. I know that you know this, but like really, we're not wired for uncertainty. It's like the whole narrative of like jump and build that business and do whatever, like jump and the net will appear. Your brain's like, I don't want to jump, girl. I don't have any data that this is going to work out. This doesn't feel like this is going to be fun for me. Like I'm not doing that. Back up, stay in your lane, stay in what you already know. Like our brain is just not wired for that type of uncertainty. So of course, if we don't have data, we're going to try and fill in the gaps, which completely makes sense, right? It's almost like our brain prefers a worst case scenario that we can process rather than ambiguity or question marks. Like our brain, if you really think about it, does not like a gray area of like what's going to happen, right? I actually feel like it's harder to sit in indecision than just make a decision and get data. So right now, maybe a little nudge, if you just needed to hear this one line from this podcast, is reminding you that not making a decision is in fact a decision, but it doesn't give you data, right? If you just choose something, then you get data. And your brain really has a hard time in the gray area, which is why it feels like it's so like over processing and consuming so much of your brain power, and so many tabs feel like it's open when you need to just make a decision and you know that you need to do it. Just make a decision. And if it doesn't work out, then you can make a new decision because you have data, right? Because your brain doesn't like that uncertainty and that ambiguity anyway. So that's important. And also like anxiety really is just the fear of not being prepared. And again, I know that we consciously know that, but it's an important reminder that worrying doesn't prepare us more. What's actually been more helpful for me than worrying is I will spiral to worst case scenario for a second to remind myself that I won't die and that I probably have a way to figure this out, whatever the situation is. And it's almost like going to worst case scenario, recognizing that I can handle a worst case scenario, which is so unlikely and like it's probably not going to happen. But just because I know that I can handle it, I'll be okay. Right? Worst case scenario, you move in with your parents. I don't know, like whatever your situation is. Worst case scenario, you do X, Y, Z. That's always been really helpful for me to talk through that, especially with my husband about any type of journey. Like, what is the absolute worst thing that could happen? Cool. It's so unlikely, but like now that we know we can handle that, let's go to best case scenario because it's way more fun to live there. So maybe there is a powerful reframe for you to know that future you has more experience, more context, more data, and more skills than present you. Future you can handle it. She's got so many more reps in because current you, present you started. And let her have the opportunity to go down the path and get the reps and acquire the skills and get more context, right? Again, I'm saying this to you as I'm saying this to me too. 5-6 months down the road for me, who, you know, goes into labor after 5-6 months of a new business in real estate, she has so much more experience than this version of me who's starting day one today. She's going to know what to do, right? Future me is going to have data and options and support. And because she's resourceful, which you are too, she'll tap into the resources that she needs, right? And like, I just don't have that context yet. I don't know what I don't know. So instead of letting that be anxiety inducing or causing me to overthink when I don't have the appropriate data, instead I'm going to be like, I trust myself. I trust my ability to figure things out, and I trust future me. Today's you does not need to be ready for future you situation. Don't rob future you of her job. She's up for it. She's got it. You're preparing her by getting yourself in the game. And last week, we talked about proving versus choosing. And I loved hearing the feedback from that episode and how many of you really just needed to make a choice, but you were really worried about other people's thoughts about your choice. And you're like, you know what, Keish, like I'm ready to make this choice. Guess what? You are setting up future you. You had to make a choice and start going down the path so that you could start getting more context, collecting more data and skills. You can't do that if you're sitting on the sidelines. You got to make the choice for current you and for future you, because future you will be able to handle it, right? So asking yourself in real time, if you feel like you're feeling a lot of anxiety or you're overthinking, do I have enough information to solve this problem? If not, lesson release. Let me say that again so you don't have to hit back 30 if you're walking your dog or you're in the shower tossing your aloof in there, okay? Do I have enough information to solve this problem? If not, lesson release. And number 2, this is kind of a trick question, but it will really anchor you back into this. Is future me more equipped than present me? The answer is always going to be yes, but maybe that's a good question just to have in the back of your head. Or maybe to put on a Post-it note and stick on your mirror if you're really in an anxiety spiral or you're really overthinking. Is future me better equipped than present me? Hell yes, she is. Right? You figure this out. Future you always knows more than present you. That's literally how it works. You're allowed to not know. It's the concept of taking that first step without having to see the whole staircase, right? Is that a Martin Luther King quote? Maybe. Right? If you're going to imagine the future, imagine a competent, boss-ass, confident version of you who's thanks for believing in me, past me. You set me up and you trusted that I could figure it out. And here I am, figuring it out. You've got this. I know you, right? Even if I don't know you in person, I know you. You're listening into a podcast like this because you care about yourself. You care about growing. You care about how you show up in the world and the impact that you're making. You've got big dreams and visions. I get you. I get it. So please stop discounting yourself and discounting that future version of you when instead you can remind yourself that she's got it. We've got this. We're in this together. This is going to be one hell of a fun ride. I love you. I'm rooting for you. Thank you again for all your support of the show. If this episode was helpful for you, seriously, I love it. I love it when you tag me on Instagram or you subscribe on YouTube and leave a comment or you leave a review. I just love getting feedback from you because please remember that while I am really hyped, I am literally recording this by myself. I'm actually in my son's playroom, which if you're watching this on YouTube, I have one wall behind me that is my wall with this really cute wallpaper and this fake plant. Can you see it? Yeah, right? So I've recorded this by myself. So I really do love to get your feedback and feel like I know what's going on in your world so I can also create podcasts that are helpful and supportive for you. So love you, rooting for you, and I'll see you next time. Bye.